Greetings and welcome to another episode of The School of Life. Today's episode will be dealing with problems and how to eradicate problems from your life. I would like to begin with a story, a true story, something that happened to me on December 15th, 2002. I was sitting in my home with my family. Just after midnight, I decided it was time for us to all go to bed, and as I went to bed, I was listening to the winds outside howling at speeds of over 70 miles per hour, and all of a sudden I heard a massive cracking sound, and it continued to crack, 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 crack. Boom! It hit the house. Massive thud. Crushed everything. Destroyed the house. Came right through the middle of the house, a 140-foot tall fir tree, just destroying absolutely everything in its path. And my reaction was immediately to get my family out of there into safety, so I brought them to the fire department where I work and had them bring their sleeping bags and sit down on the floor and call it a night. When I came back here with the fire department from both Point Reyes and Inverness to cover up my house and to try and salvage any belongings. And that's the beginning. That's where it all begins. Now, most people would look at this and say, that's a tremendous problem. That's an absolutely horrendous problem to have lost everything that you own, to lose your home, and meanwhile, water is funneling into my house. By the time I returned to the home, it was probably 6 or 8 inches deep inside the house of water, all the way up to the outlets in the walls, and everything that I owned was completely destroyed by water and the tree having come through my house. Now, as most people would consider that to be a problem, I consider that to just be a situation. This has happened. I've lost all my stuff, but I didn't lose my life. I was not injured, nor was my family. And I just started to think about what is it that I can do to empower myself to be able to get through this situation and get to the final conclusion that I would like to have. That final conclusion included living once again in the same house that I had been living for many years prior to that. I loved the place that I live, I loved the land that I live on, and the rent that I was paying was actually so reasonable that it made no sense to try and consider anything else besides continuing with this option. Now, I'll remind you, the house was completely destroyed. It was just splintered, and there was a massive 140-foot fir tree that had come from the neighbor's yard through my home and into the next neighbor's home and crushing their Mustang out in the driveway. When I looked at this situation, I thought to myself, all right, well, here we go. I have to do something about this. I called the landlady. I was a renter at the time, and I suggested to her that the house was destroyed by a tree and maybe we could go ahead and fix what remained of it back up again. And she said, okay, that's fine. Go ahead. If you think that you can do that, that's great. So I ordered a couple large dumpsters, the 10-yard dumpsters, and took everything that I owned out, plus all the stuff that had been destroyed in the house, threw it into these dumpsters, and proceeded to get the materials that I needed to rebuild the home. In rebuilding the home, I got to make a couple changes and improve things that I had seen that were not very well built when in the original design of the home, and fix those to my liking without really changing the structural integrity of the home or the size of the home in any way. And basically, I turned what some people would consider to be a problem, I turned that into a situation that was actually redeemable by just looking at the solutions. What can I personally do to improve the situation? And I was able to eventually rebuild the entire home and get it back to a very nice livable situation. And needless to say, I've filled it with all kinds of material goods. So everything that I may have lost in the previous lifetime has all been replaced with new stuff. And so really not a problem at all. Actually, I think in some ways that was a nice purging to get rid of all that stuff. The concept of removing problems from your life is based on a solution-based mindset. I believe that anybody who comes to a situation with a solution-based mindset removes problems from their life and just looks at things as a situation instead of a problem. It's very sad that some people find themselves stuck in the problem-based mindset where the problem is so disabling that they can no longer function, that they can no longer come with an obvious solution, and make the changes that are required to get themselves out of the problem. It's really not a problem when you have a solution based mindset. Sometimes even the small problems in life can debilitate people to the extent that they can no longer come up with a solution, not only for those small problems, but for the larger problems outside of themselves. When a person can't solve their own problems, then they don't have the energy to give to solving the larger problems. So, this is what the solution based mindset is all about. Eliminate the problems, look at everything as a situation. When you realize that there is a solution to your situation to better it, then you set yourself some small attainable goals and work toward that bigger picture of what does success look like, what is the final result that I'm trying to achieve, and then work toward that. Give all of your energy to the solution and give none of your energy to the problem. There is no problem when you have that solution based mindset. I really believe in this time that we need more solution based minded people so that we can get to the bigger problems, which are problems regarding the environment, problems that are actually global problems, problems that result in the whole world having a need. I think that if we can look at this as a situation instead of a problem, and then we become less overwhelmed. There is something that you and I and everyone around us can do to help eliminate or at least minimize the situation that is the environmental crisis of the world. Some of that is to do with diet, some of that is to do with our use of energy, some of that is to do with figuring out ways to clean things up. I welcome anybody with a solution based mindset who has cleaned up the situations in their own life to start to dedicate and devote some of their energy and some of their forward solution based thinking to coming up with an answer to the global crisis. And maybe we can all together, piece by piece, work on something that we can do as individuals, as communities, and as the world at large to try and improve the situation that is the environment. This can only be done with a solution based mindset. So, if you want to eliminate the problems from your life and be a part of the answer to the larger problems of the world, then we need to get to the solution based mindset. Stop thinking of things as problems, look at them as a mere situation, and realize that you do have the power on some level to make a change. All you have to do is focus your energy on what is the solution instead of dwelling on what's the problem. Please consider subscribing to this page on YouTube, and thanks for your likes and comments. And I hope to see you next week here on the School of Life. Thank you very much. Bless.